Do you know how to shop for a mortgage? Do you know what questions to ask? A lot of people say, what's the lowest interest rate? But what does that even mean? Why do places have different rates? And is the lowest rate actually a more expensive option? Sometimes people don't know what to ask or where to begin, and what is the rate seems like the default question you're supposed to ask. But is it? We're going to cover all that stuff right here, right now, so you're better prepared to shop for the best loan option. First, let's look at where rates come from. Everyone has seen those stock market tickers and seen business shows and websites where they're looking at stocks and bonds and trading data. Well, a lot of those traders are also buying and selling investment instruments called mortgage-backed securities, or MBS for short, sometimes referred to as mortgage bonds. This is a chart that shows MBS data. As investors are buying, it causes the prices to go higher, so it moves up the chart. And those are green trading days. The higher the price, the lower the interest rates. So we actually want to see higher priced MBS coupons, and we like this chart to be green and upward moving. Now, if investors are selling mortgage bonds, the prices fall. Those are the red tick marks and moving lower on the chart. When there's a sell-off, it means interest rates are increasing. So what causes investors to buy and sell mortgage bonds? The same kind of economic data and reports that causes them to buy and sell stocks and other investment vehicles. When there are jobs reports, inflation data reports, Federal Reserve meetings and announcements, all of those things can impact buying and selling of mortgage bonds. But guess what? It's not only here, it's international data and news as well. All of that global news can influence buying and selling of mortgage bonds, and that's what drives rates up and down. So that kind of sets the baseline of the cost for lenders to loan money out to you for a mortgage. But there's a lot more to find out before knowing what your available rate is. First, we need to look at what loan program you're doing. The most common are conventional loans, FHA, VA, USDA, rural development. Each of these programs has their own interest rate. Lots of people look for 30-year loans, but you can pick different loan terms, and that might even make the interest rate different. How's your credit? What will your down payment be? Both of those are big factors in determining what your interest rate could be. You see lenders use something called risk-based pricing, where we evaluate a wide range of risks, and the rate adjusts up or down depending on all those different risk factors. And here's a frustrating part. Remember all those charts from before? Those charts are moving all throughout the day. So your potential rate at 10 a.m. may be different than what's available at 4:30 p.m. For someone like me, that's part of my job, so I'm seeing that data move all day long. But for your average consumer that doesn't do this for a living, how are they supposed to see all that data move throughout the day? That's where it gets to be frustrating. So now that you know where rates come from, did you know you can pick your rate? Your lender can price out your specific scenario and come up with a list of rate options. You can see it here in this grid, and rates are available that are really, really low, as well as rates that are really, really high. So naturally, you just pick the lowest interest rate, right? Wrong. You can pick the lowest rate if you want, but there are additional fees that you have to pay in order to get what's considered a below market interest rate. That's a one-time fee that you pay, and it's called a discount point. I don't necessarily like that it's called a discount point because it sounds like you're getting a discount, but it's actually more fees that you pay. But you do get a lower interest rate for paying that fee. So you may have heard that term before. Paying one discount point will get you a lower rate, and 1 point is equal to 1% of your loan amount. So on a $300,000 loan, it would be an additional $3,000 at closing if you paid one discount point. Discount points don't always come in whole numbers. You can see here there are fractions of points, so it lets you know exactly how much it would cost to get each available rate. So if you look back at this chart, let's take a look at the lowest rate you can get. You see how much it costs? Would you ever pick that rate? Absolutely not. It's way too expensive. Now let's say you're looking at your closing costs and you really don't want to come up with all that money for closing. Did you know you can pick a higher rate and get a credit back from the lender to offset some of those closing costs? It's the same concept as discount points, where you take a higher than market interest rate, but instead of paying a fee, you get a credit back that can go towards covering your closing costs. Now there's one available rate in each scenario where you're not paying anything extra and you're not getting a lender credit back. That's called the par rate, or the 0 point rate, and that's the one most commonly selected. When you're deciding what rate you want, it's important to consider what the payment is at each rate, and then what is the cost or the credit for selecting that rate. You can do a pretty easy calculation to estimate how long it would take for the added cost to pay for itself with the monthly savings. Just take the total cost divided by the monthly payment difference, and you can see how many months that is. On the flip side, if you take a lender credit, how many months of paying higher interest would it take to exceed that upfront credit that you're getting? Once you know those time frames, you can assess whether it makes sense to lock a below market rate, an above market rate, or the par rate. So now you know where rates come from and how you can select the best rate for your situation. I see people all the time posting questions online or in social media groups. This is the rate I was just quoted. Is it good? And it's really frustrating because we know there's a lot that goes into determining that rate, and no one can answer whether it's good or not without knowing more detail. But even more frustrating are the amount of people who will give advice Anyways, no, that's not a good rate. I got 1% lower on my mortgage. That was 4 months ago. You should shop around. Yours seems really high. Knowing what you know now about where rates come from, can you see how that's not really a helpful answer? So, how can you effectively shop for your mortgage? First and foremost, do it early. When you're getting pre-approved, that's when you want to pick your lender. Who you work with at the beginning can play a big part in helping you get an accepted offer on the house that you want. Plus, what happens if you wait until after you're under contract to then start shopping for your loan? You may have a closing date within 30 days of signing your offer. What if it takes you 3, 4, 5 days, a week to shop for the best deal? You may end up burning through a lot of time up front that you can't get back later on, and you may miss your closing date. Sometimes a seller may agree to extend the contract. What happens if that seller has a backup offer they decide to take instead of granting you an extension? You could potentially lose the house you worked so hard to get under contract because you started shopping for your mortgage too late. So number one, start shopping early. Ask for referrals. Who do you personally know that's gotten a loan recently and had a 5-star experience? Does your realtor recommend somebody they work with who consistently demonstrates good results? What do their online reviews say? What can you learn about them upfront by looking at their social media presence? At some point, you should probably talk to that person. Some people want to talk on the phone or communicate by email or text. Whatever works for you, find someone who can match up with your preference. Ask lots of questions. Make sure it's someone you feel comfortable working with to help you get successfully through the process. And yes, ask them about their rates. Not only their rates, but what other fees do they have? Now, someone isn't going to commit to you up front what your rate will be once you find a property. It may be 6 months or longer before you even find something. But getting an idea of what their rates are that day, you'll have a pretty good idea up front if those rates are competitive with what else is being offered. And no one can or should be guaranteeing that they will always offer the cheapest rate. You can scour the earth and search all over the internet to try and find whoever's the cheapest one out there. Guess what? Just like with everything else, there's always someone that will do it for a little cheaper. Now, here's what not to do when you're shopping for rates. Please just don't go online and search for lowest mortgage rates. Yes, you'll get a ton of results, but it's super easy for a company to show you upfront a really low interest rate, but then not necessarily show you all the fees on the back end, which you have to pay for to get that really low interest rate. In fact, you can go to some really well-known and popular large companies, banks, lenders, whatever, and online they'll have a low interest rate with really big font and then list their fees in a font that's quite a bit smaller and usually located somewhere at the bottom of the page. So although the rate might look really good, if you know what you're looking for, you can see that it actually ends up being a much more expensive option. So that's my lesson for all you home buyers who want to shop for a low rate so you can buy that beautiful new home and have a cheaper payment. You learn where rates come from. You learn that you don't just have to take one rate, you can actually select a rate, and now you know how to effectively shop for that rate. So go out, get it done, and enjoy the journey.